go. How's the form? Can you take a seat there? Great to see you, first of all. Hope you're well.
Fine, thanks, son.
We showed a few of your good scores there, but the point against Dublin in 2006 earlier on in the show, is that one of your own personal favourites?
Yeah, I suppose you have to say it is probably the best one I scored, I suppose, because of the timing and what it nearly brought us to. But it's funny when you talk about football and you say, what's your 2006, what happened that day? I remember shortly after putting that ball over, maybe 2 phases of play after, I gave a stupid ball across the field and I said, here we go again, Mac. You know, and that's what stuck in my mind going home that evening, saying how thin the line is between success and failure.
I have heard sports people talking like that. You bring up something positive and then a sports person might think of the negative. Is that almost a deliberate ploy? It's better to think of the things that went wrong because that'll drive you on to improve?
No matter what was ever said in the media about me, I'm my own worst critic. That's it, you know. After every game, club, county, I go home and you think about the 3 or 4 points that you missed or the bad pass you give. You never go home thinking I've done A, B, C, D and E right. You always go the other way, or else you'll never improve. That's what
What did you see as your job on the pitch for Mayo?
My job on the pitch for Mayo was trying to supply balls to the boys inside. Try to be their eyes in the field, trying to see a player or two ahead.
I mean, do you think is there still a place in Gaelic football as it is now for a player like Ciaran McDonald? It's probably a stupid question, but I mean the way that
well, you've asked it now, might as well commit.
Yeah, might as well commit now, yeah. But I mean to that type of player.
People say football's in a bad place. I think football's in a great place at the moment. I think the amount of training that's gone in, the amount of media that's involved in it, I think football will just evolve. Now I think that even more so the long distance kicking, even more so the long thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. I think football now has to go wide, width, from your corner forwards, keeping them wide, no matter how many people come back to keep as much distance from you and the extra man back. Recycle and get your good kickers on the ball that can score from 40 or 50 yards out, that can think 2 or 3 steps ahead. I think it's a more thinking game now, instead of just people on about mass defence, and every manager has his own right to set up his team the way he wants. I just think if it's up to the player to see, like if a manager can have A, B, C and D of tactics, but when a player goes out in the field, he has to play what's in front of him. You can't be looking over to a sideline looking for inspiration every 2 seconds from a manager. He's done his job.
The argument seems to be now that is the case, though, that players are almost overly programmed by their managers and they're just robots and go out and carry out orders.
Yeah, and that's where I think it has to change. And that's where I think that these blanket defence, when they are used, will make a change. That you're going to have to see 2 or 3 steps ahead. You're going to have to force the man inside to make that run by giving them that ball. You have to be unselfish in regards to saying, well, I'm not as good at shooting from 45 yards out or 50 yards out, but I'll work laterally inside to recycle the ball, to let my good shooter on the ball. And that's the way football, I think, has to go.
We're talking about you as a footballer in the past tense, but you're still playing. You're playing for your club, Cross Malina against Clare Morris this weekend in the league?
Yeah, we're playing Saturday evening. Yeah, still enjoying it. Training hard. I love my club. I've always loved my club. There's a great bunch of fellas there now that weren't around when I first started playing football. My first championship game, the majority of the panel now weren't even born. But I'm there and I'm trying to hang in there and trying to give them a small bit of wisdom if they listen to it an odd time. And
do they listen?
Times, yeah.
Well, speaking of your club, we actually saw this clip on YouTube of you playing for Cross Malina against Kiltane in the Mayo Senior Championship not so long ago. And apart from the 11 points that you kicked in this game, we couldn't help but notice that the commentator relied on one stock phrase to describe every score. I mean, I suppose from his point of view, if it ain't broke, you know, don't fix it.
Howley across to McDonald. McDonald a shot. McDonald the point. Off the ball. Joe Kane back to McDonald. McDonald a shot. McDonald point. Jonathan O'Boyle inside towards McDonald down in front of the goal. McDonald a shot to McDonald the point. Ciaran McDonald goes on. It's still Ciaran McDonald. Ciaran McDonald a shot. Ciaran McDonald a point. Keating across to McDonald. McDonald is shot.
He's not going to say it this time. I don't think so.
And McDonald a
Oh,
point.
okay, there we go. There we go. Oh, yeah.
You turned 40 this year, if you don't mind me saying. You turned 40 years of age this year.
40, yeah.
And you're still, as we said, you're still playing. What actually keeps you motivated? Is it just, you said you love your club, is it just a love of playing the game?
Yeah, I love football. I just love it and love reading about it, love watching it, love trying to learn. You can learn. I go to under-7 training. You can learn from them. I just love playing the game, and I often do you often get word to say, well, are you going past it? Are you making an ass of yourself? Well, I'd hope that somebody would tell me, Ciaran, enough is enough. I hope at this stage it hasn't come, and I keep going from the way.
You can learn, you said you can learn, you see kids playing, you can take something from that in terms of how you think about your own game?
Yeah, well, people are on about defensive football, as long as it doesn't get into underage, as long as coaches don't go out to a 7-year-old and stop them running helter-skelter, stop them having fun, well then I'm all right with the way senior football is going. But if it comes into under 10s and under 12s and under 14s, well then something has to be done, because you go out there to 7 and 8-year-olds and they're all chasing the ball, and you'll see one fella that might step back and you'll say, yeah, well, there's football there, you know.
Ciaran, you were a flair player, I guess, to describe you, but you can't play like that without being able to handle yourself in the field. And we've talked to a couple of your previous opponents over the years who have confirmed that you were well able to handle the physical side of it. Did that physical strength come from your... Because I've often read that would have come from your day job as a pipe player.
Yeah, I never went to gyms. Many's the manager that I've had words with saying, and I haven't turned up for gym sessions because, and I just didn't do it. My work stood to me. I never changed what I'd done for 25 years as regards work. I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, used to, whatever part of the country I was working in, I go there, work on a Monday usually, you get up at whatever, 4 o'clock, you'd work longer Monday night because you'd be getting away Tuesday for training. So you might head away at 6. And within 2 hours drive, I come home to Castlebar for training. You get out of the van and you go train from 8 to 10. Then you go home and you get up the next morning at 4. And I never had to do a gym work because it just stood to me. And as I said, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were ever any further than 2 hours away, we've heard a story that you just rock up to club training sessions and just say, sorry, Ciaran McDonald here, do you mind if I join in? Is that true?
False. You know, I'd be too shy to rock up and say, I'm Ciaran McDonald, here I go. And so if I'm in an area, I'd get to know who's managing, what's happening, and I'd ask their permission, could I rock up and play? So then I'd go...
Start handing out McDonald 11 jerseys to the sign them.
Did you find it a healthy balance? Because it's a tough, physically demanding job that you were doing off the field and on the field. And that's a lot of travelling to be doing, a lot of work, both in a professional sense and in the amateur sense with the GAA. When you were working, could you forget about football? And when you were playing football, could you forget about work?
I suppose that's why I was looking the game in the work I was at. For maybe 1 out of the 20 had interest in football, would ask you about football. They'd be more interested in work. They'd be more interested in horses. They'd be more interested in anything bar football. So I could go to work and I was just a normal Joe Soap working my 10 or 12 hour day till I went training, you know. So would I be able to handle an office job where it was talked about all day or a big game coming up? No, I'd probably be happier away working the way I was.
Did you ever try it? The office job, nice handy 9 to 5?
Yeah, I remember, yeah, my mother's going to kill me now. I remember I came back, I was 20 years of age and I got a job in one of the financial institutes. and I remember I started working on Monday with big reservations. And on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock, I arrived home and Mom said, what's happening? I said, Mom, I went out for a pack of biscuits, and I said, I'm at home. And I says, I'm not going back there again.
It just didn't quite suit you?
Didn't suit me, no.
And tell us, you lost 3 All-Ireland finals playing for Mayo. And this is the story of any Mayo footballer you talk to, unfortunately. A lot of amazing days and it not happening on the big day. Did you, on each of those mornings when you were heading to Croke Park, did you believe within yourself that you were going to win?
Oh, yeah, every time. A lot of the results proved otherwise, and we were badly beaten in the finals. But every every Sunday morning that I woke up for an All-Ireland final, I firmly believed I would. Firmly believed that we had enough lessons learned, enough preparation done, enough talent. Yeah, it just... You come home that road again on a Sunday night thinking it'll be different again.
Do you still think about those days? Is it a thing that you've kind of pushed to the back of your mind, or is it still pretty raw?
Oh, it's pretty raw, you know. You'd have a mad illusion in your head that you're still good enough to play inter-county football, with the hope of getting an All-Ireland title. Yeah.
There's a bit of support in the room for you there.
You know, no, they're great. They're defeats, but they're great memories. You know, it was great to be there. Would it be great to have an All-Ireland title at senior? Of course it would.
The reaction we had, Ciaran, when we said last night we were going to have you on today was absolutely unbelievable. I don't think we've ever had a reaction from within a county about somebody coming on like we had from Mayo people, which shows the esteem that you're held in there, I think. Is it fair to say that relationship was rocky at certain times, that you did have your difficulties with fans from time to time in your Mayo career?
I suppose everybody has trouble with fans at certain points of their career. Mayo people just, they expect an awful lot. They expect All-Ireland titles. When you lose so many, they always expect the next one to be a winner's medal. So, did I ever wish that I wasn't playing football for Mayo? Never. No. Would I?
Even around 2003, there was an incident. You were playing an away game in Fermanagh, and you left the panel, I believe, because of some stick that you were getting that day.
Well, I remember playing it. I remember the day. It wasn't stick towards me because I was well able to handle the stick. It was stick towards a member of my family, which I thought at the time was very much out of order. It wasn't my sister's fault that I was kicking the ball 10 yards wide. That's it. But I didn't think that me personally playing a football game should affect her. So at that time, I said enough was enough.
And do you regret that now? You weren't away for that long, but if you were to have that decision back?
No, I wouldn't change it. I still think, well, I still think the people that were giving my sister abuse shouldn't, or she shouldn't be put through that because I was playing football. No, so I wouldn't have changed it.
You came back, Ciaran, in 2004 and won an All-Star that year. So I think in good times and bad, the one of the consistent things about you is that you almost never do interviews, almost never did interviews during your career. Why was that?
Number one, I'd be a shy person. I'd be a shy person individually. I wouldn't. I'd be introvert. I wouldn't be extrovert, no matter what people say about me. My job was to play football. My job was, at the time, to play for Mayo. I didn't think doing an interview, I put enough pressure on myself on a football field without adding to it by saying something in the paper, by maybe annoying a manager. No, so I thought it was better left alone. I had no real interest in it, and plus, the work I was in, construction work, you don't really talk about it. You know, you don't.
You were worried about how you might be perceived by the people you worked with, in part.
No, it's just, it's a different type of a culture. It's you know, it's not. You don't open up to all the things that you know what I mean. You don't be seen to be opening up or talking to papers, and so I just thought it was better.
Yeah, because it was weird. Like, we interviewed you on the radio 3 years ago, and we actually didn't know what your voice sounded like. You know, it's a weird thing, given you know every sports star now nearly. You know what they sound like. You know what they look like. That was just such a strange thing for us, even just on a personal level.
Yeah, as I said before, it didn't interest me. You know what I mean? I just thought it would be taken away from my game, taken away from the team, taken away from the chance of winning an All-Ireland title. So I thought it was better left not done.
It's funny that you've used the word shy a couple of times to describe yourself, introverted there. I think we'd all have seen you on the field and just assumed differently. It's the way you played, the way you looked on the field, everything about it screams, look at me, you were the centre of things there. But that sounds like it's exactly the opposite of how you wanted to be viewed off the field.
Yeah, off the field it's totally different. On the field I'm comfortable. On the field it's natural. On the field I'd spend 10 hours a day on a football field if I could. The likes of this, Not so much.
Was that always the case that that was just from when you were a kid right the way up, that was where you felt you could be yourself? Or not necessarily be yourself is the wrong way, but that you could show off a bit?
Yeah. As I said before, I just love the game. And it comes kind of easy. You can see a few steps ahead, and out there, it's natural. You know what I mean? It doesn't...
I don't know if you think in any way that it would have fitted people's perceptions better, maybe if it would have been an easier fit if you had been doing interviews and you had been an attention seeker. But what you were actually doing was you were looking how you were because that's just how you wanted, that's just your choice of how you wanted to look. In ways you think that and not doing interviews added to a bit of a mystique around you, around what you were like? Because I kind of get that sense that people don't really know who you are and this mystique has grown a little bit.
Possibly, I suppose. Anybody can have a digger, anybody can say what they want about you when you know you're not going to talk back. So I spent my whole football career with people just presuming what I was, presuming what they thought I was, knowing that I wasn't going to say anything else to make it any different. And it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me as long as my family weren't affected and as long as I was still playing good football. It didn't really bother me whether I wore white boots or... It didn't bother me.
I suppose the last question, the key question, Ciaran, is Mayo for Sam 2015?
Yeah, of course, of course. Are they the front runners at the moment? No, they're not. They have a new management team, work to do. Hard to get used to 30 new players again. Are they in the top 4? Yeah. And will they be at the top table come September? We don't know, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, listen, Ciaran, it's been absolutely great. Really appreciate you making a rare appearance. Thanks so much. Ciaran McDonald, everybody. We've got one more task here because you're the man who can change the good wall. We're just going to spin over and we're going to have a look at the top 10. Yeah, you can stand out here, Ciaran. That'd be perfect.
Tough decision, but Morris fits.
Morris Fitzgerald?
Come on.
Yeah.
What did you like about him in particular?
He just has so much God-given talent, but yet he trained, dedicated himself to train to perfect everything. And he's just the best I ever saw.
What was he like to play against? Because he did do damage to your county in '97.
Not a man to bear a grudge, and that's good to see.
Demolished us in '97. No, he put on an exhibition in '97. And it's just, as I said, everything came to him naturally to him. But the amount of time and the amount of perfection he used to do, it's unbelievable.
The kind of player that almost the defenders in your team, it's impossible to really defend fully against a player like that if he's in his pomp.
You can never defend against him one-on-one.
All right. Well, the next question. This is where you have to start being a little bit unpopular because someone's coming off the wall.